Hello, everybody, and welcome to In-House Insights, the podcast by in-house professionals for in-house professionals. We are having another great session today, but before we get into that, I'm going to talk to Chris about what is this weather and why am I so cold? Can you warm us up with some hot topics, please?
Hello, Abby. How are you? I don't know if I can warm you up. I got to tell you, it's been raining nonstop from where I am, but we've got a little bit of a blue sky starting to creep through today, so hopefully some better weather coming.
I don't want to be a schadenfreude, but whenever you come to me and you're like, oh, it's awful weather up here, it brings joy to my soul because you live up or it's sunny always, and I'm sat here in a jumper and you're like, oh, we just had a barbecue, and I'm like, it's June, what are you talking about? So it brings me a bit of joy that it's cold there too.
I have a sly little smile after 15 years dealing with Melbourne winters. I'm happy to be up in New South Wales, up near the Newcastle sort of coast, but you went fishing last week. That's the main thing we should be talking about. You caught yourself 50 kilos worth of tuna, I believe. Yeah,
the tuna were running hot, and I was looking at photos from last year, and our ones were just really chonky. They were big fat ones, which is, it was incredible. Like, I love the Great Ocean Road and I love fishing, and to be able to combine the two was just lovely. And I'm a big believer. I love animals, I love the ocean, but I do think like getting closer to where your food comes from is just no bad thing, and it was just very fun experience.
Oh, I love it. I'm very jealous. You're gonna have to take me next time.
Yes. And speaking of big fish that we've caught, let's go to our guest.
Hey, well done. Didn't even rehearse that one. Let me introduce a good friend of mine, Alex Concannon. Alex and I met when he was the head of marketing at Employment Hero. It was a few years ago now. And he's very kindly joined the board of the In-House Agency Council, so he's one of our esteemed board members. But he's been through a couple of gigs since then. He was the CMO at Valiant Finance, and now he's the VP of Global Marketing at a business called Deputy, which is really exciting. So welcome, first of all, Alex. Thanks for joining us on the iHack podcast.
Hello. Fish on.
Very good. Excellent. Next year, maybe we'll all go, mate. So, mate, why don't you just kick us off by telling us a little bit about your background? I've just kind of rattled through how we met when you were head of marketing at Employment Hero, but tell us a bit about your background, mate, and then what you do at Deputy.
Yeah, so my background's a little bit unusual, probably from a marketing point of view. I studied genetics. I worked in a research lab back in the UK, and then moved to Sydney and just needed a job, and ended up at a creative agency of all places.
Yeah, look at that. A scientist in marketing. They always say marketing is a balance between art and science. You sound like you might lean a bit towards the science side of things, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It was a perfect marrying of mind and heart, that kind of thing. Working creative side was great. I loved it. Was there for 3 years at McCann, and then found my way into tech and media, and had my own startup for 2 or 3 years. And then found my way back into bringing it all together with in-house agencies in tech.
Yeah, I love it. I am. Fantastic. And mate, you're one of the marketers who have come up kind of that media stream, probably as we're referring to your science background. You're a bit of a numbers guy, but, maybe tell us a bit about that. When we met, you were head of growth marketing and you were building a really advanced, modern performance media function for Employment Hero. And I know you did something very similar at Valiant. Tell us a bit about how you think about, marketing today and media in particular, and how the businesses can be thinking about the way they connect with their customers leveraging media.
Yeah, particularly in tech and B2B, media spend is often the second biggest line item in not just the marketing budget, but like the company's budget. So there's a lot of eyeballs on it. It needs to perform. And broadly, there are probably 3 levers you can pull from a media perspective. You can spend more money than your competitors. You can be more creative, or you can try and move quicker and kind of optimize and iterate and grow. And that's where I've typically focused. So it really helps. I think that was why I got really interested in in-housing, was when I was looking and having worked in the traditional agency model, the idea of getting a brief, building a media plan, sending that back, getting feedback, like that loop just didn't work in a tech environment. So when I was approached by Employment Hero to head of growth marketing, I had this idea of, well, how can we bring a growth mindset, which was very much, SEO and CRO and conversion rate optimization. How can we also bring that kind of iteration into the actual performance buying and also offline buying of media to deliver business results? And I found that incredibly an interesting challenge to start from scratch. There weren't that many places in Australia that were really doing it at the time.
Yeah, that's right. You were one of the leaders.
Yeah, and starting this kind of thing with no one else really doing it, and without the resources of a big agency, like where do you start? Where do you start from a tech stack perspective? Where do you start from an operational perspective? And we started really simple. So everything was like iterative. We did really well in search. And then once we found that we were capping out on search because it was the easiest to bring in-house, then we started looking at social. And then we started looking at native. And then we started looking at offline. And we started looking at radio and how can we bring a performance mindset to radio. And the whole time we were doing this, the marketing side, the media side, and the creative side just squeezed very tightly together. And it ended up working a lot better because the performance marketers were also looking at the sales results and were also writing headline copy in templates because we could do it.
Yeah, that's one of the huge benefits of that in-house model, is having that proximity between the different functions and the visibility on the performance and the data. You just talked about kind of building this team up from scratch, and again, you were one of the leaders. How did you find one of the challenges? Well, actually, let me reframe that. There's a lot of businesses starting to pull different components of their media mix in-house. And, you just described a story where you're doing it kind of channel by channel, one at a time, getting really good at that and then proving and kind of moving on to the next one, which is a really great approach. One of the challenges that people often ask about is, can you get the talent? Are there people out there in the market who you can go and find to bring in-house? Because otherwise I don't think I can get the people and I need to rely on the external agencies. How did you find that challenge? And, you were doing this 5 or 6 years ago, and I think it probably has changed since then even, but how did you find it then? And what do you think it's like now in terms of the talent marketplace?
Yeah, I think that there are two challenges. So one of them has been finding the right people, and I've typically fished, I'm going to use another fishing analogy, but I've typically fished in the agency pool. You learn so much more. One thing like I loved about agencies was you learn so much so quickly in an agency environment. You're working probably on 2 to 3 clients. You're probably working on tens of millions of dollars worth of budget. You're at the forefront. And you're probably overworked and underpaid for all that thing. So I would frequently try and get ex-agency people or current agency people who had been looking to make the switch and go, come try something different. Come own everything, not just the small media thing. Like be the marketer, own the creative, own that. So that was one side. I think what's more interesting now is the role, particularly in performance marketing, the role of a performance marketer and the skill sets of a performance marketer is changing as well. And I think this is the new challenge of hiring someone who potentially has like 10 years performance marketing experience might not necessarily be the best performance marketer for the next 5 to 10 years. Based on, assuming that they kind of are doing what they're doing previously because of the role of AI, the way the platforms are changing, the way that we can now, the speed of optimization, iteration. And I actually posted something on a Substack the other day because I was trying to find a search person and getting all these search people through. And when I started talking to them, it quickly dawned on me that actually I needed a copywriter. When we look at search now, search is not about keyword mining and ads, campaign structures. Google, Bing, they're all pushing people towards products that are AI driven, increasingly black box. And where you're closest then to the prospect and the customer is through the copy. And that's how you can have the biggest impact. So I started looking for like copywriters who wanted to get into performance marketing, and I kind of flopped, like, which was interesting because for me,
interesting. Yeah. That's a blended capability that probably doesn't currently exist. Maybe we need to create that, mate.
Yeah. And everyone was talking about at the time, like how Claude and OpenAI were going to kill off copywriters. And I was like, well, they're not. Like, copywriters are going to get more important, but they're maybe not writing the copy that they were doing before. Like, come be a performance marketer and write compelling headlines for search and social.
Oh, I love that.
That's really fascinating for me, because I think in this age of AI and in the age of changing job roles and growth, like, being a people leader is a bigger challenge than ever before, because you have to kind of try and understand what people know, but you also have to try and understand what none of us know yet, and how we can like build curiosity. And as a people leader now, one of your skills is like hire curious people and then kind of help them learn what you need them to know. So how are you facing into that as a people leader? Because I've always looked at what you do at Employment Hero. You were like, I want to make mini agencies so we don't over Slack and all these sorts of, like, you do put people and their ways of working at your core. So how are you facing into that as a people leader?
Yeah, one thing I will say is that I think different different leaders have different ways of operating. And I definitely have a style of work and working that doesn't align with certain people. But other people will thrive in that environment. So I think the first thing from a people perspective is being self-aware enough to know who are the people that you actually need to work with. And I really prioritize cultural fit. Looking for those naturally curious people, looking for people that are willing to try new things and get stuck in, and in particular, make decisions with half information, because no one's going to give you all the answers. No one's going to tell you how to necessarily use AI to its fullest capability, just to use it as an example. So I tend to look for people who naturally are the ones who already started playing with it and already started, thinking about things differently. And if you give them a problem, they don't necessarily find the straight line to that problem. They want to look outside of the box. And when you then hire those people into the teams, and when you build those teams like that, it becomes a little bit easier then to kind of manage that change, because it's being built from the ground up. And that's one of the advantages that I've kind of had in my last 3 roles, is a lot of them have been build this. It's been a very much like a build it mentality, and brought people along the journey who've kind of fit that mentality too.
It's always been a big thing in-house. You have to be really clear on the EVP. Like, what do you get by working here? What do you get by coming in-house? What do you get by being a part of this side of it rather than being agency side? And I guess you're just taking it to that next level of like, what do you need to be for us to work well together? What kind of wild stuff do you bring to the table, and how do I manufacture it? Because I always say that the operations and people leadership should be about building a safe space for the chaos to exist, because creative chaos is what we need to do our job. But that definitely is a challenge for you as a leader. But on the other side of it, you are operating in a space where you're giving them the freedom to think differently. Like, I'm sure Chris was going to touch on this, but I'm going to snag it first. But you just did 100% AI generated radio campaign. Like, that you did, it came out and it was like, wow. And it was really early adoption over here in APAC. But I guess that's your personality, is you open the door to be like, what if? Let's dream it.
Yeah. And also just operate, there's always the headlines in marketing at the moment, like, how do you do more with less? And to do a radio campaign would usually cost 10, 15,000 in voice fees and talent and production and timelines and scripting and all that. We didn't have that at Valiant. We weren't even sure if the channel was going to work for us. So we just looked at in market, and 11 Labs are doing some incredible stuff with voice agents. We wrote some scripts. We got it live. We worked really closely with ARN, and they set up all the tracking for us. So we had Veritone tracking, which allowed us to look at website visitation around the various ads that we were running. And it validated the idea then that radio was a channel that was delivering top of funnel brand for us. It also delivered some short-term performance results. And so AI in that instance kind of de-risked it for us. It was how do we make a test as small as possible, but still get good value out of it. And so the money that we were going to spend on production ended up being spent on media.
Even better. You reach more people.
We reach more people.
Yep.
And we felt confident. And I know, like, obviously I'm not there anymore, but they have been looking at radio and doing more radio off the back of that test. And I think the future plans do include, more sophisticated production. We were limited. Like, we got it live. It sounded good. You couldn't really tell, but it wasn't the best radio ad in the world. I wouldn't pretend it was the best radio ad in the world. We still couldn't match the subtleties and the nuances and the humor and the delivery of a real person. And that's where I think we could make it better. But it gave us that permission to explore the channel further.
Yeah, that innovation. And now I remember when you did it, you were telling us, like, it worked. The bottom line is it worked. And you were trialing and innovating, and it sort of positioned your team as an innovative team as well, which is something that helps you attract talent too.
Yeah.
Mate, tell us about Deputy. You went over there 3 months ago or so. Tell us all about it. So it sounds like an amazing opportunity to build something again from scratch, which seems like your MO.
Yeah, that again, like, very more of a traditional style, like lots of agencies, Australian tech unicorn, probably one of the ones that, again, it isn't top of mind potentially versus the Canvas and the Airwallexes and everything, but very successful local, success story, operating in the US, the UK, and through APAC. And they just wanted to build, like, their marketing had stagnated and they were looking for something new. And we started having conversations, and I was like, I want to build the coolest, newest version of marketing, and this is what I have in mind. And it was a lean, AI-enabled performance and creative engine that is going to, scale globally. And there was a lot of buy-in from the CEO and the CFO, and they were looking for that change, and we're starting now to deliver it. So we brought on our first creative director, a guy called Connor O'Sullivan, who started like 3 weeks after me. And he's fully into this idea as well of just operating with velocity, doing things different in market. And in the space of, I've been there 7 weeks, and we kind of set a goal that within 60 days we'd start shipping. We've shipped 40 videos, and we just rolled out 400 social and display assets for a payroll campaign. Like, you can't do that in a normal environment, but in-house we were just able to do it. We were able to
incredible
start engine, and that's now what we're focused on. Now we're focused on, we've done it in Australia, obviously Deputy is a global business. Like, how do we start cranking this out to the US and to the UK and make sure it's locally relevant? And again, we've leaned a lot on AI. If you look at any of our videos, like, all the special effects are AI. We're kind of doing a lot of editing using AI. A lot of the supers and imagery is starting to become AI generated, but we're still using real people as well, and blending the two seems to be giving us better results, which is really exciting.
That sounds so exciting. Abby knows I can't stop talking about AI, but seeing somebody like you leading this change through a business like that is just incredible to watch. So I'm excited to see all the work that you're doing, because you'll see this coming out next week, but we've just come off the back of doing the world's first study around the adoption of AI within in-house and hybrid agency models. And, just to give you the short story, everyone's adopted it in some way, shape or form, but nearly no one has done what you're doing, right? Which is woven AI and automation into the core workflows of the marketing team. And you can kind of only do that when you're designing it and building it from scratch. It's pretty hard to bolt it on around the outside of a legacy model. But so you've got this huge advantage, but gosh, the amount of pace and agility you're going to be able to generate off that's going to be something to watch. So certainly for people keen on marketing transformation and watching what marketing teams are going to do in the next 2 or 3 years' time, I'd say keep an eye on Alex and Deputy, because it looks like it's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah. One thing I will say is that it's still very bolted. Like we're still like patching things together. Like systems still don't properly talk to each other, and you can vibe code the best connection between things and then it breaks and you end up patching that over. So we're still learning, we're still built, but as you said, it's probably more philosophically and culturally, it's at the heart of everything we're doing. And we're trying to make it operationally better, and we'll get there. We'll get there, but everyone's figuring this out. Like there's no definitive answer.
Yeah.
We're off to the States shortly, and we think we're ripping the APAC. And I think there is something beautiful about down here. There is some younger businesses or younger in-house teams, and you are able to build in the current workflows, which is like you're not having to retrofit it in the same way. But I would say I always find people like you interesting. They've come from a broad background, and you're one of our first really senior marketing guests. So we have had a lot of in-house agency leaders, and I wanted to get your take on, as a marketer who's changing the game and trying to do things differently, what can good in-house agency leaders do to future-proof themselves, to either get them moving towards marketing roles, or even just being a better in-house agency leader for someone like you that's trying to change the game?
Yeah, it's a good question. I always try and have an eye on the future, because I think that's where, to be a really, I guess there's actually two things. So one is just having an eye on the future, because you need to be thinking ahead. You don't necessarily get to tap into all the resources that an agency network has, and particularly, in Australia, even the agencies would often be led by someone else, like the UK or the US. And so one thing being an in-house role is you don't have access to those resources. You don't have access to all that knowledge and or leadership and even just budget to be flying all over the world and kind of attending conferences and listening to interesting people. So you need to do it yourself. And I think that's a big change. The other one is, and I actually was speaking to someone the other day about this, because I hadn't really thought about it. It's just understand your own marketing philosophy. Because I think if you understand there's many, like marketing is such a broad term. There's many ways to do marketing. There are some incredible, like brand first marketers. There are incredible activation and event first marketers, social marketers, people who do organic really, really well. And there's many ways to skin a cat. And I think if you understand what your philosophy is first, then you can build better teams, you can manage better people, and you can drive better results. And it will also help you, I think, find the right organizations that fit you as well. Because I couldn't go into a luxury beauty company, for example, and just bring my template there and it work, because what works in that category and industry doesn't align with what I think works in marketing. My philosophy translates quite well to B2B, but specifically like SMB B2B. Again, when you start looking at enterprise and big ABM strategies and all that, I don't think it would fully translate. There'd be portions that could translate to it, but I think what I think works in marketing works incredibly well across SMB, and which is why it's translated from Employment Hero to Valiant, and hopefully translates again over to Deputy.
One of the things I want to try and unpack a little bit is you're building this thing from scratch. And a minute ago, you said you've hired, I think you said his name was Connor, your creative director, or your head of creative. You hired him not too long after you started. Was that your first hire?
Yeah. He was my first hire. He was also like the most important role that when I was talking about this, I was like, we're going to need a really strong creative director who believes in this, gets performance, is a creative thinker, is an AI first thinker. He's come from Finder, So he was at, well, he was over in the UK. He worked in an accounting platform. Then he was at Finder, and he's done some other work for a host of other brands. But from the first time I chatted with him, I was like, we're just completely aligned. We're on the same wavelength.
Yeah. Interesting, because you're such a strong kind of proponent of the media stream and the performance stream. And maybe I'm answering my own question here, but you've obviously gone with someone to kind of give you that other side of the coin there, the creative role first, as opposed to going in and hiring a really strong performance marketer to come and help you set that side of it up. Yeah.
And, I guess going back to my origins, so my first roles were creative side. So, I've always believed that creative is your creative and brand, your performance multipliers. So you do a lot with performance, but you need the right messaging. I think it's also, and it kind of ties back to what I was saying before with that search person trying to find a copywriter. Creative is getting more important as the media side is changing. So as it becomes more AI enabled, you need less performance buyers, but you need smarter orchestrators who can work across the sales platforms and the media platforms and get them working and understand the creative and work with creative teams. So creative is becoming the main lever that we can pull. So it was the first priority.
That's so important. And actually, it's refreshing to hear a CMO who recognizes the importance of creativity. Not that most of them don't, but it's not often the number one thing that they'll go for. The first hire or the most important thing on the lever, which, as you're saying, as the world gets more complex and there's more channels and more messaging and more, in inverted commas, AI slop out there to compete with, having creative work that can cut through and grab attention is going to be so much more important for every marketing team.
Yeah, but I think as well, the other thing, and we spent a lot of time, I say a lot of time, we spent the last 2 weeks kind of planning out what we're doing. And, the way that creative used to be evaluated by the platforms has also changed. So you don't need one really strong creative idea anymore. In fact, like one really strong creative idea will probably get seen by 20% of your audience. What you need 4 or 5 very disparate, creative ideas that are good. And that's where you can start leaning into. So that's what we've started planning out. And, a lot of the creative that we're doing it's about getting incrementally better. So, I wouldn't say that the creative we're putting out there is going to go and win a Cannes Lion at the moment, but that's not the purpose of it. Like what we're doing is we're trying to improve lead volume and sales, 10%. And then we're going to learn from it. And then next month, we're going to try and grow it again. And then the next month, we're going to try and grow it again. And once we have that baseline working, that's when we're going to start looking at, okay, well, what are the big fun ideas that maybe we've had on the back burner, but getting that engine kind of working is critical first.
You famously once said in an iHack thought piece that it's not a Cannes Lion, but momentum is your growth driver, keeping it moving. And I had a question for you, because I am lucky enough to have run into you in many different places, and I always come away feeling very inspired to try and test and learn. But in the space of AI, a lot of people are a bit overwhelmed. What are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you playing with that you would encourage people to get their hands on, or their ears on, or their eyes on?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm playing with all 3 platforms. I say 3 platforms. So OpenAI, Claude, Gemini. I'm not really reading a whole heap, to be honest. A lot of the time I'm talking and listening a lot to the platforms themselves. Like if I want to know how to do something, the first thing I do is I ask it, and I found that's the best way to do it. So the main thing is just doing it, trying, have an idea. What do you want to do? Chunk it up, start really, really small. To be honest, the most impactful thing I've done recently is I built a little agent on Codex, and I've connected my Slack and my emails and my calendar all in there. And every morning it just auto runs my day, and it will read all my emails. It will draft responses. It will read all my Slacks. Particularly working AU to US time zones, they're not the friendliest. So a lot comes in overnight. And the first thing I get now is I get like a proper digest through Codex that has half done my morning. It's probably saved 2 hours out of what I would usually do. And it was so simple. Like, you connected 3 pieces of tech, gave it permission, created the skill, set it to auto run, and it's now just running.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's so fascinating. We just came off a call and it was a senior leader going, I wish I knew what other senior leaders were doing to make their days better, because, it's much easier to go, copywriting and generative AI, I can make scamps really quickly. But that sort of more senior strategic, how do I make my day run better when you get to a certain level? Those things are a bit more murky. So that's a very useful tip for a lot of people.
Well, you've just reminded me of something, Abby, actually. So I mentioned before, Alex, we're getting ready to release the AI report that we've just done Australia's first study, or APAC's first study on. And one of the insights that came out of the report was the adoption of AI and the usefulness and the time saved of AI actually is all at the entry-level roles. And actually, the further up you go in the org chart, so up to the CMO level, the adoption is likely to be lower, and they're saving less time, which is interesting because you've got designers and copywriters and video creators all kind of going, it's really obvious how I can do this and figure this out. And there's tools that have been designed to be used by me, and I can save 10 hours a week or 15 hours a week. And you get up to the CMO level like you, and you're one of the few examples who are pretty advanced in this space, and they're kind of going, I don't know, I ask it some questions once in a while. I don't really know what to do, So there's something in there that we've got to help all through the chain to better understand how it can help you do your job and be more effective and efficient and save yourself some time as well.
Yeah. And I mean, I use it all the time. Like I'm definitely I engage with the AI platforms more than I'm engaging with my email, fundamentally. I spend more, I think that would be a first thing. Like, if you're spending most of your time in emails and meetings, stop and start and have conversations with ChatGPT, and it can help. I use it a lot to inspire not inspire, but stress test ideas and thinking and strategies and plans that we're doing. And what you find is you can very quickly spar with it and get to a really, really strong, interesting place.
Careful, Alex, you are getting dangerously close to me, making you do a session for all of our leaders about how to use it.
Might be too late, mate. I think we'll lock that in.
Yoink! Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a really great place to end, because we can circle back and get a more in-depth session to pick your brain.
No, loved it. Always a pleasure chatting.
Oh, mate, it was fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm super excited for the new gig and to see where you take it at Deputy. And thank you again for all your support and leadership in this space. It's very inspirational.
Thank you.